send them, but don't stop them. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Did you get that notification that said we're live?
Yeah, 15 seconds.
Gotcha. Well, you know what? Normally, I do a lot of clever introductions, and this, I don't want to say what we're going to talk about is serious, but this is something that I've been looking forward to ever since I came across who you are, because you compiled, and I want to be clear about the wording. I asked you, I said, did you write this document? And your answer, correct me if I'm going to quote you the wrong way, you said, I didn't write it. I compiled it and let the evidence speak for itself.
Yes, that's basically exactly what I said and meant.
That level of humility, that level of borderline self-deprecation was that impressed me right off the bat. And I want to be clear about that.
It goes to the purpose of the document, actually. I wanted to establish for all African Americans that we actually do qualify for refugee status, or just as a refugee, which means that not only are conditions to that level in the United States, but also there really are alternatives. We can do what a lot of people do, which is go anywhere in this vast, wide world and look for a better life, and you actually have rights as a person who's seeking that. So I really hope that anyone who wants to make that move can. You know, there was a time when I was going to actually just jump ship and apply as a refugee somewhere, but I had a different option. So the document is still there, basically part of the public domain, you might say.
So let me do this. How can I Google this? Oh wait, I'm hearing a big echo now for some reason. Did something change in your background? No. Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, we're here now.
Okay.
Where can I find the document? If I want to link people to this document, because I want everyone to look at this and I want everyone to see what
I can, while we're talking, basically upload it onto Google Drive and then provide you a link that anyone can click and see. It's not a website, it would just be a kind of a raw link. We could start with that, and then uploading it onto a page is really not an issue. It has chapters. It could be that there's a website with, a kind of sub page for each chapter.
Wow, because I would love that, and I would hard link that. I would ask you to put that link into one of the comments.
Okay, sure. I'll just start on that while we continue talking.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. You can even do that after. Tell us your name, where you're from, where you are now, where you were in between. Give us the nuts and bolts, and don't worry about being long-winded.
Okay. My name is Daniel Oliver, and I'm from Austin, Texas. That's where I was born and raised. About my background, after high school, I went to university, and I went to Columbia University. And while I was at Columbia, I started to travel around the world. I spent 3 weeks in Europe with my best friend, who was a German exchange student. I'm German international student. And then I studied abroad in Australia. Since then, as a teacher or just in other capacities, I've been overseas, I think, most of my adult life. Middle East. I'm now currently in Lahore, Pakistan.
Wow. We've covered some of the same areas. I've lived in Australia. I've lived in a few of those places. You lived in Europe for a while. This is interesting, not only that we covered a few of the different places, but you used the phrase that I've used. You used the phrase, you said, I've lived outside America. Correct me if I'm wrong. You said most of my adult life?
Yeah, I think over half for sure.
I had that same revelation, and I actually wrote about it because that revelation hit me and my brain hurt because it never occurred to me until someone pointed it out. They said, you realize you've been outside the United States longer than you've been in it as an adult.
Wow. Yeah. At some point I just counted up this place, that place, how many years. And then I was like, okay, well, how long have I been alive since 18? I'm like, oh yeah, like I spent most of that, you know what I mean, overseas.
That's
Yeah. Well, why for you? Why have you? What have you been doing?
it happened totally by accident. I just started traveling. I started seeing the world, seeing different countries.
Uh-huh.
No, I didn't have a plan. It's just, and we can go to the nuts and bolts of it. When you, because what did you graduate with?
Bachelor's in sociology.
Okay, I'm
Uh,
management. Here's the problem: when you are educated and American, you have so many options traveling
right.
that it's just really, I mean, when you realize it, that you have so many options, that you have so many places that you can go, when you realize that you have so much available and open to you, it really changes
Mhm.
things. And when you go, I did a video called Making Money Overseas, where I talked about a lot of people don't know. If you want to do a very fundamental job, if you simply want to teach English, you can make a middle class income
Right.
almost anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know
No,
that.
no, you can. And to be honest, I'm doing that where I'm living at a middle class level. I mean, just as far as my accommodations and other things like that. Um, but I'm not established as I want to be. But that's as a freelancer right now. I mean, I'm building a business, but right now I am at the level of freelancing, and a lot of that has to do with maybe maybe it doesn't sound so good, but American privilege. You know what I
No,
mean? If
no,
you want to make a long story short, if you're American, you are privileged,
yeah,
even if you're, tanned.
yeah, that can be true. But here's my question: you said you're establishing your business. I established myself. I do editing, proofreading, and for the record, I always tell people this during every chat. I don't make money off YouTube. I'm not that person. What
Okay.
I do editing, writing, proofreading.
Wait, wait. I'm not getting paid for this?
No, I'm sorry. Did my people tell your people that you were getting paid for this? But check this out. This is what I do. I
Uh-huh.
do editing for everything from resumes to books to magazines to ghostwriting
Oh,
articles to I have clients that do things, for example, on TED Talks where they have to give presentations. People come to me for university level English.
I
I
like
charge
this.
a fairly substantial amount of money for what I do because when you work with me, you're working with someone who's not going to teach you how to sound like the guy in the music video. I work with people with their reading, their writing until they can speak at a university level. Because if you're the CEO of a company who can speak in educated, for example, Brazilian Portuguese,
Right.
you should be able to do the same in English. And that's not an easy task.
Yeah, I mean, just on that specific point that you just ended on, um, what I found is that people can go through this kind of abstract exercise of building vocabulary, where it's kind of like divorced from uses of the language, and they can even get some pronunciation and a lot of grammar correct, but they don't have the knowledge base where they know they've been exposed to this wide range of topics. So the conversations that go this way and that way, that they can keep up with those. You know what I'm saying? So if you, the people who know what the higher level means will pay top dollar to get to the top level because they know how difficult it is to get there and they know how few people can actually do that for them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, let me do this. I want to go back to the article. I'm going to
Okay.
send you a link internally here. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, let's see. Where is it? Did you get that link?
In the private chat?
Yeah. Did that come
Or
out for you okay? No, I don't think it came out for you okay over on
no,
that
yeah,
side.
yeah, I don't
So
see anything.
what I'm going to do is I want to send you a link because instead of me reading this, I want to ask you to read it because this was in Quora.com. Okay.
Okay. Right,
When it says,
right.
yeah, African Americans who decide to leave the United States forever, why did you leave? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to read from it, I can open it
Yeah, can
and
you open
read
that? 'Cause I want
exactly
to
what I
read.
said
Yeah,
instead of
because
saying
I am
while
an
I paraphrase.
African.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's opening right now. And how would I? Okay, I'm on Quora. All right. Do you want me to just read
Just
verbatim what I wrote?
just
Yeah.
give us that intro. Yeah.
Okay. The question was African Americans who've decided to leave the United States forever. Why did you leave? My answer was I am an African American refugee. I am not in my own country due to a well founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race. And owing to such fear, I am unwilling to avail myself of the protection of the United States. Um, then the answer is kind of long. I guess it would read to about a page.
No,
So
continue.
I'll get to the end where I kind of, reiterated the point from the beginning. I left because I am a member of America's ethnic African minority, and we are being disproportionately and systematically killed by state actors with impunity, with no prospect of change or protection. Thus, according to the United Nations Convention relating to the status of refugees, I am a refugee.
Wow. Now, I want to go back to when you said, according to the United Nations Convention relating to the status of refugees.
Right.
Unpack that. I've read it, but a lot of our friends haven't. Unpack that for us real quick.
Okay. Uh, this convention happened in 1951. The United Nations was basically formed after World War II. And this convention was created to discuss how will we as a group of nations with different laws, disconnected systems, mutually handle refugees, which is kind of like, it's a jurisdictional thing, right? They're from one country, they're in another country. We need some kind of status and standards, and we need their humanity to be protected. So they gave conditions under which a person is defined as a refugee, and that is a legal status. So it's not just a definition of a word for a dictionary. It's actually a legal status with rights and protections that ensue.
I've read that. I know
Okay.
people that have talked about it. I have manipulated and used different things traveling the world. That's one of them. My question is, how does a group inside the United States qualify as a persecuted people according to the United Nations and not have that recognized? How come no one's talked about it? How come no one has brought this up?
I think part of it is you got to understand psychologically, there's this kind of beacon of hope, branding that America has done. And, the Statue of Liberty and the poem underneath, and, so many movies about immigrants kind of making it, and, the American dream. The American dream wasn't really something concocted, meaning, Americans acquiring home ownership. Actually, the American dream was someone from across the world has, this kind of streets paved of gold to go and find and build a life in. So, yeah, I mean, I guess. Sorry, I forgot. What was the question again? What were you asking me just
You
before?
moving forward, I can understand your
Yeah,
answer. But here's where we go. First, now you're an African American. I'm a Black American.
right,
We can define ourselves how we like, but the American dream was
right,
never written with us in mind, no matter how we define that American dream.
right.
So my question is, do you see a situation where governments have begun to recognize the plight of Black Americans when we have someone like Duarte in the Philippines, who is not a nice man, although no politicians are? Okay.
Right.
Uh,
Well,
the
just has anyone sort of talked about it in an official capacity, like UN level, government level, one government saying to another, these sorts of recognizing these sorts of realities? Yes, just referring to the document, there was a committee on the elimination of racial discrimination. And in 2014, I think it's a kind of periodical review. They mentioned something. The committee reiterates its previous concern at the brutality and excessive use of force by law enforcement officials against members of racial and ethnic minorities, including against unarmed individuals, which has a disparate impact on African Americans. So this was basically a UN, kind of body recognizing that this is going on. But, what weight do those kinds of statements hold? I think we haven't gotten to the point where someone can just say, look, I'm like a Kurd in Iraq. I am like a Rohingya in Burma. Everyone knows my story. I'm from Syria. You know what's going on there. So when I show up at your door, you're like, yeah, we know about it.
I want to give people perhaps a better example. They may not know what a Rohingya is. They may not know what a few of those other groups or situations are. What I will say is I'll give you an example to people who are trying to understand. What if you are a Muslim in a Jewish country or a Jew in a Muslim country? You would understand that it would say, kind of like that old song, one of these things is not like the other one, and someone could be killed for it. And that's what happens to Black Americans when they realize that we are disproportionately murdered. Now, I personally go back and forth with friends about leaving and the coming back and will I ever come back, but it's an awkward situation when you realize the entire rest of the world recognizes your plight. The problem is if you've never left the United States, you don't know that. You really do believe you're alone in this. I'll even go to, I'm going to share something here with everybody. And by the way, for everybody watching, please give it a thumbs up. And as I always ask everyone to please share it somewhere, share it on your timeline on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, because this is how I meet other new and interesting people. Now I'm going to go back to is it Daniel or Dan?
Daniel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, have you seen that when he says, asked to comment on the United States Department's concern over the drug-related killings, Duterte said, yes, of course, including us. The Philippine government is worried about what is being done to Black people there in America, being shot even while lying down. Now, that made international news. A lot of people, if you don't read international news, you wouldn't realize that a vicious and brutal man from another country who himself freely recognizes the use of violence, he's being persecuted because, and I have Philippine friends that said, as Americans, you don't understand how much they love him there, even though he is brutal. He went out and just decided we're not going to have a drug problem and started slaughtering drug people, drug lords, kingpins. I can't discuss the ethical nature of another country's behavior, but when you have someone like that saying, yeah, but at least we don't go hunting Black people and Indians, it does something to you.
Well, I mean, yes, he has these other things that he does and that we read about, but he's a sitting head of state giving that recognition to the problem and the violence, basically saying, you are complaining about the violence that I inflict, in my war on drugs, but who are you? Look what you do to your own citizens, your own African Americans. Like maybe he's saying, look, I'm targeting criminals, or at least people who are thought to be criminals. You're just targeting people because of their skin color, And so I'm not justifying what he does, but the fact that a sitting head of state has said something about it means, yeah, man, like the whole world knows,
So let's get to the document. I did find it online. I found a place, and I'm not going to ask everyone to read through it here with us. I just want to give everyone a quick taste of what we're talking about, about what he put here. Case for legal asylum, refugee status for African Americans. Now, I'm going to tell you what I saw when I looked at this. I saw a document that's 50 pages, I saw a document that was very specifically detailed to be used for Black Americans who leave America and say, I am being hunted in my own country. Here are 50 pages on why.
Yeah. And I think also one thing that it's important to establish in a case where you're applying for refugee status is that not only are these conditions present, but they are enduring, meaning this isn't some like flash in the pan, like something happened and now, I'm applying for benefits in a Northern European country. It's more like, look, this is actually something that is deep rooted, as well as something where there aren't channels for resolution, or the channels for resolution basically aren't working. So that's important to basically say, look, if I'm saying that I have a legal right to claim, refuge, it's all there. Like, it's legally sort of established, and the sources are there at the end of each section. So
I'm going to go with your first.
Go ahead. Sure.
The purpose of this paper is to support the application for recognized refugee status and asylum for African Americans, America's ethnic African minority. It proves they are being disproportionately and systematically killed by state actors with impunity and that there is no prospect for change or protection. And this isn't just a couple of articles put together. Before I contacted you, I went through this. This is a very well documented piece for everyone, and I'm going to make this a comment in the comment section.
Okay, sure.
This is a document that gives very clear, very well referenced, very well put together as a journalistic piece. I would like to see you submit this to all major newspapers. I would like you to put that front page that says, "Hey, I didn't write this, I compiled the data, and I'd like to know if you can do this." I will help you blast this to every news media outlet. Because
sure.
You said something interesting. You said applying to Northern Europe for benefits, which is something some countries and some people do. But the other thing that a lot of people don't understand is that one of the first lessons I learned traveling the world, if you're a Black American, you can go anywhere and you'll probably be just fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. See, this is an important thing. People will say, "Oh, there's racism everywhere." Like, if you're talking about leaving, or you're talking about the fact that we should do something to be safe, they'll say, "Oh, there's racism everywhere." Yes, that's true. But racist violence and racism are like two different things. They're obviously connected. I mean, one is rooted in the other. But we're talking about racist violence. And if you leave me to my life being safe, but I have other problems, well, okay, like, that's a pretty good starting point. You know what I mean?
Is that blasphemy that you speak right now, my friend? How dare you parse out the difference between racist behavior that results in the loss of life and racist behavior that means maybe I don't get to go live in the neighborhood with everybody else? How dare you separate those two things?
I mean, yeah, obstacles, and we're talking about basically the difference between obstacles, which are real, and they can even be hurtful, damaging. They're palpable, right? And mortal threat. Like, there's a difference between, okay, I have an obstacle to getting things done in this situation, or I have, a threat to my life in another situation. They don't compare. To be quite honest, they don't compare.
That's one hell of a way to see a difference. What led you to compiling that document? Was it first for yourself?
Well, I mean, yeah, very originally it was for myself, because this is a step that I was actually thinking about taking. But I quickly realized that what is true here is just, I mean, it's true. These are facts that are true for the whole country. Therefore, any person who is an African American, and I want to actually point out something that female deaths do not receive as much attention.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I really don't know why, but everything that's true applies just as much to African American females as it does to males, as far as the level of threat, etc. So I realized, look, I want any person to use this because I want lives to be saved. I mean, the purpose of this document is to save lives. So I want, maybe I'm someone who, because of my educational background and certain levels of privilege that I can enjoy, might be able to make my way anyway, just on the fact, just because, okay, I have a job. But what if someone doesn't have access to that? What if they're doing something like, let's say they're a truck driver, they're licensed and skilled, but this isn't the kind of job that countries typically give visas for. So what's that person's outlet? No, they need an outlet.
Can you give me an example? I like examples. The people here, I want to give them something they can actually touch.
Okay. Someone who has a skill or they don't have a skill, they have a right to enter another country as a refugee based on the fact that they are African American, is my point. So right now, I haven't used this document. I'm not living on a refugee status because I'm able to work. I'm an education professional. What if you are an electrician? It doesn't matter. You still have a right to go to other places because you're seeking safety. And you don't need to have anything to offer, or you may have something to offer. There's no qualification other than the fact that you are African American. And it's proven that because of that, your life is in danger.
Now, this is something people have real issues with, my friend. In the United States, we often talk about immigration, people coming to, and we often have what I call what has been defined by others as the strict father model, meaning, what have you done to deserve this benefit? I believe that as Black Americans, because we were never given a choice for our situation, those rules shouldn't apply to us. However, how can we look at another country? Let's take Brazil. Let's take Lahore, Pakistan, where you are.
Okay.
What right do we have to ask them to honor our plight and let someone into the country who, due to systematic resistance and discrimination, doesn't have the skills that you and I have as educated people?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I think there's this idea, I mean, in the American discourse surrounding immigration that, they are freeloaders. What do they have to offer? They're just coming here to get a better life, right? That's immigration. And it could be that someone is using, refuge or asylum to just take advantage. But what I'm saying is that a refugee is someone who, entering a country that has signed to this UN Refugee Convention, has a right to be provided refuge, to be allowed to live legally, meaning you have a residency card, I'm legally here. You can take advantage of benefits, you can work, and basically that you have a right to seek the use of resources on your behalf from that government. And there are, I don't have a list, but there are a lot of countries that have signed to this convention. It's basically, you can say it's the rule with few exceptions. Countries who recognize this convention and basically say, if you come here, you can prove that you are seeking refuge and you can get that refuge. And whatever you do to make money, whatever you offer, whatever you give back is irrelevant to the fact that you may come, you may stay, and you may receive support, tangible support that, yes, costs money. Yeah.
Now, okay, we're going to have I'm a little excited because I always enjoy having discussions with people who may have opposing points of view but can defend those statements and have a clear discourse. And I've enjoyed, but I know we don't have forever. There are two things that I want to pop up on. One, first, we got to come back and do this again because I want to learn more about Lahore, Pakistan. I love talking.
Okay, sure.
I love bringing more to people because everyone believes that the same news outlets that convince us that everyone in America is evil means when you leave America, you're going to die. Brazil, for example. You're going to get off the plane and someone's going to stab you in the face. Really?
Yeah.
You have a better chance of from random violence in America. And they say, well, isn't there violence in Brazil? And I say, well, yeah, there's violence in Brazil. In certain neighborhoods among the police and drug dealers, sure. I didn't live in poverty in America. I don't know any other countries where I can go to the supermarket and get shot.
Well, violence that makes sense is basically, money is the root of all evil type of stuff. So certain areas have certain zones have certain things going on. And if you're not stuck in that type of situation, or if you're not seeking out, that type of activity, you're typically safe in most parts of the world. But in America, some guy, of a certain persuasion at any given moment is going to go off with an automatic rifle,
Daniel,
yeah.
Daniel, speak to me in ambiguities. You have far too much dignity for that.
Okay.
Now, but by the way, going back to what you said about countries that signed on, I'll give people a tip. I don't know if Brazil signed on to that, but I know Brazil is one of those countries where if you can make it here, you can go downtown to the federal police office, apply for refugee status, and you'll be granted it. Now, of course, they have to see your case later. But what a lot of people do is they get the refugee status, and then while they're here, try to put things together in a way that will allow them to stay. Maybe you can get a job. Maybe you can get a sponsor.
Right.
The interesting thing about Brazil is in the United States, when you if you apply for something, you get no rights. You get no privileges at all. Here, if you do it, you do the paperwork, you do it legally, you say, here's who I am, this is where I live, I arrived here, across the border somehow, but I want refugee status. They'll say, okay. You go through about 4 hours.
The default is yes, and if you're later disproven, it'll be rescinded. But what you're saying is, on arrival, you're taken at your word because of humanity. For the sake of humanity, if you say you need help, we'll help you, and we'll figure out the rest later. But for now, you're safe.
But here's the interesting part. When you arrive, when they give you that number, you're legal. You can turn on your utilities at your house. You can go buy a mobile phone. You can buy, it's essentially a temporary social security number. So you can do anything. You can go get a bank account. You can have a legal bank account.
Wow.
That's
amazing to know. And what you're saying, and I'm just going to reiterate it for listeners, because I think a lot of people who are from America, they haven't been around as much as other people. So they don't actually know what happens in other parts of the world. When they don't know what it is to be a foreigner in another country. They know what it is to kind of see foreigners, right? So basically, based on the way countries handle their commitments to this convention, this refugee convention, you just need to show up by any means, even illegally, and say, I'm not recommending that you go illegal, but I'm saying by any means, even what illegally means is that at the moment of you just showing your face, you are not on any status yet. Meaning, before you go to the federal police and say, hey, I want to apply for refugee status, you don't have a legal status. It's not illegal as in a crime. It means illegal as in, say, unestablished. So you're unestablished, you show up and you say, hello, I'm seeking refuge. I'm not safe in my home country. They may look at you and say, but you're American. No matter what they think, they're going to give it to you at that moment and say, okay, and as per Brazil's laws, you get these various financial, or these various, legal benefits or financial benefits. But to be honest, countries that recognize that convention will all basically do the same thing. The particulars vary, but you're kind of there and you can pursue your life as a protected person while you're establishing whatever you want to do permanently, whether it's to move on to somewhere else, whether to become a citizen, refugee, permanent resident, start a business, and then reside, whatever the different options are.
So look, we just got a comment from Modern Oracle, who is an amazing woman I've known for far too long, and she has a very interesting view on life. But she says she's been an environmental refugee since 2014, and I'll point everybody to a discussion that she and I had that was it went some interesting places, and I want everyone, when they get the chance, to definitely check out the video that she and I did, and I would love for her to be able to chat with us one day when we have more time, because I don't see this as a conversation we're going to have once. This is a conversation that you and I see, the Oracle and the Abomination, Phyllis and Wateef, balancing the world's body and mind. She and I chatted and had a great discussion. I hope everybody can that out later. Yeah. And Reigning Woman is a longtime supporter. She's driving and watching and listening, so thank you.
Okay, hello.
I'm going to tell you something that's a unique piece of advice that's not unique, because my secret is I tell everyone this, especially with a story to share. I don't know what kind of social media presence you have outside of your writing. I'm a writer too. My webpage is writing. Okay. But when I started a YouTube channel, I was able to, and I don't do it for profit, I do it for meeting amazing people, sharing amazing stories. Start a YouTube. If it's just once a week, you with your family talking about what it's like there. It doesn't have to be serious and heavy, because I have conversations that range all kinds of different places. You need to share your story. You need to become a platform. You have a responsibility as someone who chose a path that most people don't even know exists to share it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll take that to heart. I mean, it's something I've thought about, but yeah, I mean, I should just make sure that this information can actually get out there, because it's like, you know, if you've gone where no man has gone before, you have a responsibility to bring back the knowledge of what you saw and learned. And I think I've definitely done things in such a way that I've had a lot of experiences that are unique, but I think also valuable. So yeah, I do have a responsibility, man. I agree. I agree.
Reigning Woman said, "You're gonna want me be a refugee."
Okay. Well, I'm not sure what that means, but yeah. Give it a try.
I think the part that we're getting at is that, refugee or not, the concept of being an educated American leaving America means you're in one of the top positions in the world, and you don't have to stay someplace where you're.
I missed kind of the middle of what you said. It froze for just like 5 seconds. Yeah.
Okay. Just because being a Black American isn't the only qualification. Anyone watching this, because I have friends of all stripes, can say, if I don't like where I am, I can go. But as a Black American, you and I, and Black Americans in general, or African Americans, however we define ourselves, have the right on a global scale to say, I don't have to deal with this. I want to give you we do that. Is there an online guide to refugee policies in different countries? Is there?
I'll just say that there's not going to be. Maybe Amnesty International has something where you can click by country and see their laws, but typically you would go by country and sort of find where their department that handles that has a website, and then they would explain how it works. Yeah, I mean, and usually it's bilingual, the home language and English at least. So it's kind of like you would pick a country, Google so-and-so immigration, and within the results, you would find their ministry or their department that handles that for more info.
Now, here's the other thing I would tell people. This is how I approach a lot of things. Any place that you find of interest, throw wild passes. Download the application, mail it off to every country you could possibly think of. All you need is one of them to say, sure, come on down.
Right. You know? Yeah, that's true. I mean, sometimes you could call a department, you could call a law firm in a country, you could Google and ask, how should I proceed with this case? Sometimes you kind of have to be there to apply, rather than like, I'm going to come as a refugee, will you accept me? Sometimes it's kind of like, you need to be in our country to seek refuge in our country.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with your idea in general, though. You should try it all. Yeah.
So, by the way, hold on. Check this out. I want to say flattery will get you everywhere. I'm glad to carry this responsibility out. I'm glad to do this.
Okay.
She wanted to say thank you to you, Daniel, for just for the everything that you're doing. The everything. And I want to use the guilt hammer. we need to get you on a YouTube channel with the camera and the microphone you have right now, talking about whatever. Once a week, whatever you feel like, and say, hey, I'm going to tell you guys about this part of my life, that part of my life, what family life is like here, what I experienced in university. It doesn't have to be these heavy issues because my friends are being a little serious sometimes, but that's something you can do, and I'm here for it. Anything I can do to help you, I will do for free for you, because a lot of people pay me for things like that. I'm going to sit down with you, and I'm going to get the ball rolling. It's not hard at all.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. It should be done, because just like this document, I mean, I knew that it had value for everyone, but let's say my life was in a state of flux, so I didn't take the second step after finishing it to basically publish or broadcast it, like make sure everyone sees it. Just because everyone can't benefit, the second step is to make sure that they have it to benefit. So yeah, getting the word out in general and specifically about this. Yeah, I agree once again. I should do it. Yeah, I should do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, little things like what I said about Brazil, though, a lot of people don't know. A lot of countries have things like that. They just don't advertise it, because what they don't want is, I have spoken to other refugees from Cuba, different places in Africa, different countries that you've never heard of, and some of them do feel like we are gaming the system as an American, or someone from the UK asking for refugee, that we're gaming the system. They feel we're taking the spot away from someone who, because I won't have an ugly dog contest. An ugly dog contest is when a bunch of kids get together, and instead of saying whose dog is the strongest or the fastest, they say, well, my dog is uglier than your dog. People get together and they want to have these contests to say who has it worse. When a black person from anywhere in the world tells me their plight, I say, you're right. I will never pretend that I got it worse than they do. If I have only one spot left and there's me and another black guy from any other country, I'm just going to let you take that spot. Because I know, no matter how bad I had it, I have the chance to get out. I have an education to get out. I have friends that come from, I have a friend in university who was the top student in several classes. I said, man, I need to come and study with you. But I found out his secret wasn't that he studied really hard because he wanted to. He was like, well, yeah, I got to go back and take care of my family. What do you mean? He said, well, my parents are old. I have a younger brother who really can't work. And my sister is a prostitute supporting the family.
So every night he's thinking, I got to get this class knocked out to get my sister off the street.
His motivation is that his sister is feeding their family. And he said it. There was no emotion behind it. It was, I'm on a mission. I've got to fix this.
Well, yeah, I mean, but going back to this this issue of like the ugly dog contest, and well, you're from America. What do you mean you need to be safe? See, when America became the beacon of hope, it was after the Civil War, when I think hundreds of thousands of white males from basically, I don't know, man, preteen all the way up to their 60s had been killed. So there were the able-bodied white male population had been wiped out on the exact same day, let's say, that every single able-bodied black person was now legal and free to do whatever they wanted to do. So basically, to restock the country, as well as make sure that the expansion of the country continued along certain proportions, they let Southern and Eastern Europeans who had previously been denied in. They just opened the door. So for all of them, living in these feudal situations where they themselves were enslaved in some cases, especially if you're talking about Russia, come to the United States, it was a land of opportunity. And it's so good for us. It's so much better than where we came from. What do you mean it's bad for you? This is the best place in the world. It's like, look, we're not getting what you're getting. As a matter of fact, your getting it precludes us from getting it. So there has always been a parallel experience like that movie Us. I'm still not sure what it's about or what it's supposed to be about or what it could be about, but there is a horrific parallel experience. Your homeownership experience is different than our homeownership experience. Even when you struggle, Your struggle is different than our struggle. The worst you've ever had it and how long you had it that way. So a lot of people don't really know what the Black experience is. I think my document takes it out of poetics, which are necessary, and basically tries to, express it in legal terms. Um, you know what I'm saying? But it's basically the same thing. It's no different than, Langston Hughes. I'm not comparing myself to him, but it's no different than him writing a poem and people seeing that and saying, what? There was this book my parents had. I probably shouldn't have read it at the age that I did, but it was called Dig the Nigger Up, Let's Kill Him Again. And it was an autobiography of someone who had basically lived as what you may call the dregs of society, and what he was expressing as his daily reality. I mean, I can't comprehend it. So he was expressing that as his daily reality to show Americans, look, this is going on. Same time you're watching, Leave It to Beaver, this is going on. And Little Beaver and Lassie's little owner was having that type of experience at the exact same time that I was dealing with this.
Can we say it was written by Robert Chin in 1976?
Yeah.
Here it is. So here's the book for those who want to get that book.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is watch Leave It to Beaver and then read that book. And just say, okay, right now, in 2019, those same parallels exist at the same extreme level. You know what I'm saying?
Modern Oracle said all those legal free immigrants are taking our jobs that funny dark way. That's a different conversation. I think that's not that's something we need to dig into today. Yeah. I would actually invite her to be on the conversation with us on that one.
Yeah.
I would also go.
It's relevant. It's relevant, but it's a little out there. Yeah, it is relevant
to today's conversation. Yeah, it's relevant, but it's outside the scope of today's conversation. When you read a book too young, I tell people that my biggest advantages in life were that I had a father that, well, I'll start back with my mother. My mother made sure I could read 3 grade levels ahead my whole life, but I didn't know it until I was in high school. And then I saw that.
There was no grade level.
Right.
There were no more further levels,
Yeah. And then my dad was giving me books that were way too complicated. I mean, I'm 12 years old. My dad's giving me Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver, reading Plato's Republic, things that he knew I couldn't handle, but having that level of challenge, man, gave me such huge, and I had a grandmother who was 65 when I was born, who taught me public speaking. Okay. So I got a trifecta of really, you said it's just dark humor. But I still want you to come and chat with us. I got a trifecta.
Yeah. No, it's all good, man. Yeah.
I hope that what we discussed today, and I'm going to put a link to where I found it. I found the PDF online. I hope that this is the beginning of a series of conversations. I hope that you can become part of our roundtables. I have roundtables where a lot of people get together to talk about different things. I know there's a time difference, but we'll be able to figure that out.
Yeah, like I said, I freelance. I got a job offer that's offering me a lot more money.
Where?
And it's like promise. No, it's here. It's just for a school. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I'll make more money on my own. Like I mean, I'm just saying, like I said, I freelance, so I have a flexible schedule, and I have clients all around. So actually, I'm kind of used to, dealing with calculating, what I'm saying, time differences and arranging something. So yeah, I'm honored to be invited, and I will do my best to join and make my time there worthwhile.
So let me ask you, instead of it's a different conversation, but I'm just planting seeds for later. I definitely want to talk to you again. I want to talk to you about Lahore, Pakistan. I want to dispel myths and talk about what truth there may be. I definitely want to talk about how you set your business up as a foreigner and how I set my business up as a foreigner in another country. I've done a few different things, and I counsel people. For the record, people call me and contact me, yes, I don't mind at all being hired as a consultant. I help a lot of people, particularly independent people traveling, set up their businesses, set up a YouTube channel, kind of figure out how to get started living abroad outside of a company aspect. Although I always advocate, I wrote an article once called Corporate Whore Before Entrepreneur. And the reason I wrote that is because I told people in my 20s, I sold myself corporate-wise with full, just 100%, because I believe that it gave me a huge advantage to understand how corporate America works. So that as an independent, now knowing how they think on the other side allows me to take advantage of it. It allows me to take advantage of that inside knowledge of how businesses work. So I worked for about 9 years as a financial professional, and I had a very successful career.
So here's one of them.
Hey!
He's going to try to grab you. He's reaching for you or reaching for the computer, yeah. This is the youngest.
How many do you have?
5.
Whoo!
Yeah.
Wow. When they say family, man, you're going to be in the dictionary. 5. And how old is he? Can you break them down for us?
Okay, 11, 9, 7, 5, and 1.
Was the last one kind of just like, hey, I'm getting bored?
No, it's I can't even tell you, yeah. But we thought the number 4 was the last one.
Oh, okay. I have a cousin who told me his wife went to the OBGYN gynecologist, and she was going to close the factory, and the doctor did a precursory exam, and he just looked at her. And she looked at him, and then he looked at her and smiled, and she went, no! That was number 3.
What a way to find out. What a way to find out.
And then she called my husband. He's laughing, talking to me. She called him, and he picks up the phone and says, hey, babe. And she didn't say anything. He said, honey. She said, yeah.
Hello.
What's up?
Say hello.
And she didn't say anything, and he went, we're having another baby. So are they bilingual? The children are bilingual?
Yeah. They all speak Urdu, which is like the kind of national language, and they speak English too.
Wow, that's going to be such an enormous advantage.
Yeah. Even just traveling around the world, like, of course, I know English. My wife knows English too. She knows Urdu. I know Arabic. So it's almost like you can get around anywhere. I can get my Spanish going when necessary, just being from Texas, but obviously I'm out of practice having been living in the Middle East and South Asia.
Wow. So you got 2 languages among both parents. It'll be functional in all of them. That's such an amazing thing, my friend. Because I tell people, don't be like me. When I came to this country, I let myself get wrapped up in my career, and it prevented me really from spending the time I needed to get my language skills up to par. And I'm behind now. I have a friend who's really upset with me because I'm not able to speak in business Portuguese at all yet. And it's like, I'm going to a university here. I'm going to start formal study and education again because I have to catch up. But learning even one extra language in life, my goodness, gives you such a... Oh, look behind you.
Yeah, they're kind of shy, but they're saying hi. Yeah. I've been the one telling them to get on YouTube. I should get on it myself,
Well, yeah. You discussing what life is like. Wow. How many daughters do you have?
4.
You have 5 women, and it's just you and your son holding it down for one team? You got your wife. Yeah. So you're outgunned 2 to 1.
Yeah. But it's he's spoiled, man, because he's got 4 older sisters. You know what I mean? And sometimes they tell me the list of stuff they're gonna buy for him, like a Spider-Man suit and this, and we should let him do whatever he wants because he's cute.
Wow.
Like, girl, what if he believes you? What if he believes you?
Wow.
Yeah, you can say hello.
Hello. Raining Woman said, hello, Texas.
Yeah. I'm from Texas.
Yeah. BK from the Rockies, he said, speaking multiple languages gold. Unfortunately, in the U.S., a lot of people are small-minded and don't want to learn. I say take that advantage away from them and learn it yourself. What do you speak, BK? Tell us what languages you speak. So here's what we'll do. You and I, I'm going to click the end broadcast button, and then it's going to go off the air, and then you and I are going to chat for a quick second. I want everybody watching this to make sure you give it a thumbs up, to make sure you share it somewhere. Everybody knows how to find me. I'm really glad we were able to really start this dialogue. So to be clear, 2 points we're going to cover next time. We're going to talk about Lahore, Pakistan. We're going to do a real dedicated time on that because I want to learn more about that country, that way of life.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
We're going to talk about how to get you up and running. We may have to do that privately, but we're going to talk about how to get you up and running. And I want to have a wider discussion with a few people that I know to invite them to chat about this whole immigration and the difference between an immigrant and an expat thing. And I think that story, that discussion needs to be had no matter how we feel about it, whether or not somebody wants to talk about it. He says that English and broken Spanish, but I want to improve. And he said, great content. But you know what, BK? This is important. Share this, please. Give us a thumbs up. Share this somewhere online. All right. Yeah. So everybody, I want everybody to have a great day. I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys, and Daniel and I are gonna hang around. Let me know when your team sees the end broadcast sign.